All right, here we go. Overdrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic in here. Jonas, any scoops on Justin Bieber being a big part of the All-Star weekend? You should be reporting on that.
I have tried to interview him. No luck.
How do you get to Justin Bieber?
That was honestly the biggest problem. It's like, I don't know any of these people.
Right.
But I did get a feeler out there and nothing.
Just crickets coming back.
Yeah, right?
But that's like, what do you? You're
he
not
should
gonna
come on your
grill him.
show.
It'd be great to have him on. He's got an open invitation. But we're in the same boat. What are we going to do? Doogie's going to fly to Hollywood and knock on doors? And
Doogie, make it happen. You want to be a big-time producer? Get Bieber on.
Doogie, that would be career-defining. Career-defining. If you could find a way to make it happen.
Around.
Yeah, send out a couple feelers. See what happens. But
what would you ask him? Like, what would be the first question?
I mean, I guess you'd ask him about his history with the Leafs, but you'd want to get to his life and his music and stuff. Like, you know, he's a fan of the Leafs. He always has been. I'm curious if he's got any strong takes about the way they're currently playing. But
it's that time of year, I'll tell you, where it's like every podcast, everything is like, what are the Maple Leafs right now, and what are they moving forward? Forget about like American Thanksgiving. I think when the calendar turns, it's like, I think the hot takes start popping off a lot more.
Yeah, we're in the dog days of the season.
Oh, yeah. So people, when they get a hate on for a team or they watch a couple bad games, they're like, get me on a podcast. I'm going to torch them.
Yeah. But do you guys think it's like this with the Cowboys where it's like we go from one direction to the other direction so quick? It's like they had that 10-1-4 streak. It's like, this team is amazing. Not me, but this team is amazing. And then it's like 3 weeks later, they lose 3 in a row. It's like, this team is terrible.
I would guess that it probably happens with the Cowboys.
We just don't know?
We just don't know. I mean, I can't speak to what they're doing down in Dallas. I would assume, though, because they have a similar history. What I find is a lot of it comes down to expectation, like just the way I perceive how fan bases and media cover certain teams. And I think the best example of that is the Yankees, where if you, like the Yankees are probably the number one brand in pro sports in North America. If not, it's the Cowboys or something like that. And everyone knows they've won all those World Series. They go to the playoffs conceivably every single year. And yet I find they get destroyed in New York. Like last year, they missed the playoffs, did not have a good season. And everyone's like, fire Boone, fire the GM. The owner's a joke. I hate this team. And if you brought that to Toronto, it would be like, well, they won a World Series in 2009. Like, what are we talking about here? And they make it to the playoffs every single year. And I think it comes down to your history. Like, I'm curious to see what's going to happen in Golden State. That is a place that has a lot of attention right now because they're not good.
They won a year and a half ago.
That's the crazy thing. 2 years ago, they won.
Yeah.
And yet it's like, you talk about takes. Everyone's got to take. You got to move off Clay. Draymond's got to go. Steve Kerr, it's done.
Yeah.
And that's a team that's won.
Well, I mean, look at Philly.
So
look at
many
the Eagles. The
championships.
Eagles went to the Super Bowl last year.
Sirianni
it's
is
like
done.
he's done.
He's done.
Dude, that was disgusting what they did yesterday.
That was awful.
And it was
Awful
almost
last
like
night.
I was just talking to my part seat, Rod Smith. Watching the Eagles play, something happened to that organization. And I know they had some key guys out of the lineup. But I don't know if it was the Patricia hiring. But something happened where they're just like, screw this season, man. The way they were playing, it was just like, wow, whatever. Let's get the hell out of here. It was embarrassing. For that fan base to have to watch that performance, I thought they were pathetic last night. They got steamrolled by Tampa.
By Baker Mayfield looking like Joe Montana and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they will get cover because of what happened the day before with the Cowboys. Right? That speaks to the magnitude of the Cowboy brand. Even today in the NFL world, it's when's McCarthy going? What's going to happen with Dak? Now in Philly, it's all about the Eagles, clearly. And the Eagles are a big enough brand. But the way they collapsed down the stretch was way worse than what happened at Dallas. Yeah. And I think you could argue the Eagles were worse last night than even the Cowboys were on Sunday, which I didn't think was possible.
So you think it's guaranteed Sirianni gets canned?
Listen, they went 1-6 down the stretch. They looked so bad last night. You heard Troy Aikman at the beginning of the games, like, they have body language as if they're not even playing. Like, they don't even want to be here. That is an indictment on a team and a coach. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the NFL and in
think
other
sometimes,
markets.
man,
It's not good enough. You got to go.
I think sometimes gassing the coach is just letting the players off the hook. It's like, oh, you guys are all cool. You're all great. You're the ones that went out there and quit and played like a bunch of losers, but we're going to gas the coach.
Yeah.
And I get it. You talked about it yesterday. In a salary cap era, that's what happens. It's like you're gassing the coach. You can't trade 20. You can't trade 30, 40, 50 players. But it just seems like a cop-out, and it's letting the players off the hook. What you do, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the NFL in a nutshell. If Sirianni gets fired in Philly, if McCarthy gets fired in Dallas, we've already seen Belichick. He got fired. They announced it as mutual parting of ways. He got fired, and Pete Carroll got fired. So Belichick, probably the greatest coach of all time, you're out. Pete Carroll, certainly the greatest coach in Seahawks history, with all due respect to Mike Holmgren or whoever else. 14-year run, multiple Super Bowl appearances, won a Super Bowl. They win all the time. You're out. Cowboys 12-5, you're out. Eagles in the Super Bowl last year, you're out. Like, it's crazy when you think about it.
And then add Mike Tomlin.
And then Tomlin's on the hot seat.
Like,
and people,
what?
And by all accounts, in Pittsburgh, Steeler fans want him gone.
That's crazy.
Like, they want him gone, and all he does is win every year and make the playoffs.
Are you just like
I'm saying
Twitter
that based
hot
on a
takes?
reporter. No. I saw this was a reporter, ESPN reporter in Pittsburgh. She was on a national show on ESPN, NFL Live or whatever it was, and she was reporting that there is no larger gap in perception of a person than Mike Tomlin on a regional basis based on a national basis. Because nationally, everyone's like, we love Tomlin, unbelievable sound bites. All he does is win. You look at his record, he's never been under 500. And she said in Pittsburgh, Steeler fans are like, we've had enough.
Why did he have to storm out with that question about his contract? Is that just him being a hero?
I guess.
Because the lady started the question with, you've got 1 year left in your contract, and he looked at her and said, goodbye.
Yeah, it was really awkward.
It was weird.
We have it. You want to play it? And this was last night. Now, the Steelers, again, got beat pretty badly yesterday. Shout out to the Bills. We got Bills, Chiefs Sunday night. Dave Naylor's coming up, the nail gun from National Geographic.
I'm telling you, the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl, man.
How quickly has that changed? Sean McDermott was fired like 3 weeks ago. Publicly shamed.
They
for
almost
a lot
lost
of
to New
different-
England.
Exactly.
It's not like they played amazing.
There was a
That
situation.
was Mason Rudolph. Yeah, go ahead.
There was a situation where if Jacksonville won and the Bills lost to Miami 2 weeks ago, they didn't even play in the playoffs.
Yes.
And now it does feel reasonable that they could make it to the Super Bowl. But here was Mike Tomlin post-game yesterday on his contract.
Mike, you have a year left on your contract.
All right, that's it.
Like,
So,
could he not have just said no comment?
you would think he would. He's pissed off. The season's over. Obviously, he doesn't want to do the public dance. But you're right. You'd think he'd be able to say, not commenting on that.
Yeah,
There's
we
time
just
to get
lost
into
on
that.
not
We
comment. That's all
lost.
he had to do.
Moving on. I'm out of here. See you later. Have a great offseason. But, yeah, the coaching carousel in the NFL is wild. And you're right about dog days of the season. And we were talking about it yesterday. Like, there is more heat on Sheldon Keefe than I can recall at any other point during the regular season. This is nothing compared to blowing a 3-1 lead against Montreal. This is nothing compared to losing to Tampa.
Is it?
Can you reference other regular season
Yes.
parts? What do you have for us?
Here we go.
What do you have for
Correct
us?
the record. 2 Octobers ago, not this past October. Remember that one?
Bad start. losing
Really
to
bad
Anaheim,
start.
0-3
And he
in
got
California.
asked about it in Anaheim, which has literally never happened and hasn't happened since. That was testier. And I was saying to you before, I don't really get it right now. I know they've lost 3 in a row, but where do you think they should be? Like, they're on.
I think, Jonas,
They're
if you
about
look at
what I
some of their
thought
star
they would
players'
be.
performances with Nylander and Matthews, it's just been, up to this point, there's been a bunch of inconsistencies. And I know the goaltending carousel has been an issue,
Yeah.
and that doesn't do anybody good. But just, like, if you just look at some of the decisions away from the puck and defensively, like, that's coaching, man.
That's also
I don't know.
players.
I get
No?
it, but the coach dictates what's acceptable for the players to do once they go out in the ice.
Fair.
Like, this is what you're supposed to do.
But if these are the players you have, what are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? I think that, like, their star players, 2 of their star players have been very good. 2 of their star players have been okay to not as good, right?
Well, based on what they're expected to do, I would say they haven't been good at all. You're talking Marner and Tavares.
Right. Their D has been okay, probably about what it should be given the talent
For what
level.
they are, it's
For what
okay.
they are, right? The depth forwards have been like, okay. Not amazing, but like not much worse than I would think.
Yeah,
They signed Tyler Bertuzzi. He has 1 goal in his last 22 games. He's making 5.5. Like, I don't know.
I do think it's more of a roster issue. I said that yesterday. Obviously, they haven't played since then, so I'm not going to change my opinion. I think it's more of a roster issue than it is a coaching issue. But there is something to, sometimes the message gets stale.
Yes.
Sometimes fresh eyes can see things that,
Look at
tired
Edmonton.
eyes can't. Look at Edmonton.
Same
I would
team.
say look at John Tortorella this year, because everything you just said about the Leafs, breaking down the roster, paper to paper, Philly is significantly worse.
100%.
But John Tortorella has factored into the way that they play, the attitude they play with, the physicality they play with, the
And
attention
what's
to detail,
acceptable.
what's acceptable, how they have to play in areas where they know they can win. And
The
again,
counter is like he's the most successful regular season coach.
Sheldon is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like literally active. I think he's number 1. Is he number 2? Maybe
Based
now?
on points percentage, I last time I checked, he was number 1.
Right?
Yeah.
And
No, he
if,
took
like,
over a team that was obviously very good,
100%.
primed to win. And
If you're going to judge him on something, it would be the playoffs, and it would have been last playoffs.
That's
where you look
exactly
at it
right.
And say, you know what? We've done this.
That's my stance on this, is that if they felt like they needed something fresh or to reset, they missed that opportunity in the summer.
Yep.
That was the time to say, we've got a new GM, we're going to do a new coach, and we're going to have a different voice, a different vision, and we're going to play differently and have a different approach.
Especially since you brought back all like the same 4 players.
They chose not to do that. The only way I would look at Sheldon Keefe, and it's the same thing I've said about him for years, and the same thing I would say about the manager of the Blue Jays, the head coach of the Raptors, if there is another option out there that is clearly better any given day with any roster, then I think you have a duty to explore that. Now, I don't know if Craig Berube represents that. I don't know if Craig Berube is definitively a better coach than Sheldon Keefe. I'm not sure he is. Different approach, different person. But I'm not convinced X's and O's, you get him into bigger spots, that he's going to push different buttons than Keefe or bring out a different team than what Keefe is. So I don't think Berube is the answer. I think Joel Quenneville would be, but I don't know what his standing is. I don't know if the team would look into that. I don't know if the market would accept. There's a lot of different things that come with Joel Quenneville, and I'm not downplaying his history. I'm just saying simply as a coach, like putting the blinders on and saying, what is Joel Quenneville as a coach? He's one of the 4 or 5 greatest coaches of all time. But
That's just fact.
that's just a fact. Like, that's what he's done throughout his career. So I'm with you that it's more on the roster. The thing is, the roster's not going to change that much.
Well,
over the
he's
next-
right. Like Jeff was saying, like you get to a point where you look around at your team and you're like, well, there's nothing else we can do with the roster. We can't really make that many. We can't make 5 trades. Let's try this. It's just like they just extended him.
Yeah.
2 years.
Well, but that
Would you
doesn't
ever look at
matter
the roster
necessarily.
and say, like, would Tree ever to sit back and look at this roster and say, why are we going to give up assets
That's a good question.
for a run that's probably not there? Like,
The
you have to.
counter is like, look at the way you're built. Like
Yeah.
if you're not,
and the best
what are you
assessment
doing?
you have to make in pro sports is with your own team. Like, you can't overvalue your own team saying these guys are cup contenders when in actuality maybe they're not. So you have to make that assessment. Are we going to give up young players,
Yeah.
first round draft picks to bring in guys and then just get absolutely dummied in the first round? It's a serious question you've got to ask.
Yeah, I think that is reasonable, and that speaks to where they are right now, right? Like, different teams in the league have a different approach.
Hey, we
clearly.
were talking about it before the show started. They have an opportunity to decide what they are in the next couple of weeks or month. It's like, because you're right there on the fence where it's like, if you teeter one way, you're going to be in a mix of teams fighting for the wild card spot, and you can go the other way and dominate and play a good team game and make people understand that this is what you are. And I don't know if you can judge it on 1 month, but they're kind of on the fence right now.
I agree. I think that would be my answer. Like, we got into it a little bit yesterday. What would you do right now? I would sit and I would play out the next 2 weeks where they play really tough games in tough environments against really good teams. I would wait to see when Joseph Wall returns to figure out what you have in net and what you're going to do there. Probably got to give Samsonov another start or two to see if he's back, if he's not. And at that point, you make a determination. And the argument, and I think this is what you were getting to, Jonas, like they're always in a cup window because of the players they have and the cap situation. I'm sorry, I don't think you can approach it that way to the point where you're all in every single year if you don't believe it's going to be enough.
And don't kid yourself. Those guys have proven it. Just because they're talented players doesn't mean they're in a cup window.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Let's get serious. They're great players, but they're not the greatest things. Like MacKinnon, Makar,
yeah.
It's just they're not entitled to be cup contenders just because they're good players.
And this isn't like a Pittsburgh situation where it's like we got to give these guys a chance. They've earned that.
Right.
Like it's the end for Sid and Gino.
It's not Golden State.
We're going for it here. Yeah. Or Golden State even a couple of years ago. It's like we're going to do what we got to do. Let's try it. Like the Leafs, they don't warrant that. This core doesn't warrant. They get that in the contract negotiations. They should not get it from the president and the GM. Like you constantly get everything you think you need or we think you need to possibly spoil the future. And you also got to remember, like Matthews is here for 4 more years. Willie's here for 8. It's not just 1 year at a time. You have to think, what are we going to build towards in 2 years, 3 years? Because you look at their system. Outside of Morgan Riley, they have not drafted and developed a top 4 defenseman in a decade. Timothy Liljegren is not that. He's not a top 4. I don't believe he can be in a playoffs. I think he can be in the regular season. I don't believe when the playoffs start and hockey is played differently, Timothy Liljegren's comfortable in that situation. They hope Joseph Wall turns into a number 1. They hope Hildeby's a part of that, but they haven't had a goalie that they've drafted and developed and turned into a star in 30 years.
Yeah.
And so at some point, they got to do that. And if you keep giving away seconds and firsts and thirds and picks prospects before they flourish, this is the spot you're going to get in. It's all right, Noah Gregor on a PTO, and let's see. At some point, they need to filter in younger talent that can boost up what else they have.
I agree with that. The only thing I don't agree with is you guys are making it about like it's on you guys to show us. If I was a player, I'd be like, dude, like look at the roster. Like, what do you want? Like, look at who we're playing big minutes on defense. Like, it's on you to make the team better around us. Do you think this team should be so much better? I don't.
I think, again, they're on pace for 100 points. We're not talking about, Columbus here. But, yes, I think this is about where they have proven. This is 41 games. We've seen who they are.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't need 2 weeks to tell me anything. Like, I think I know.
There's been ups and downs, and
I've
said they're on the fence, but it might be the last 2 weeks of the season where they're hot for 2 weeks and they get in, and they're not, and they're not.
And you know what? That is probably the better way to put it. In order for me to get to a point where I see them going on a run in the playoffs, it's like goalie gets unbelievably hot, and everything breaks their way. They get the right matchup. Matthews, Marner, Nylander are unbelievable.
A couple massive upsets, although they had a massive upset last year, and they didn't take advantage of it.
But I don't picture a scenario between now and the end of the year where it's like, wow, they're a juggernaut. Like they're flying, they're moving. This team is a team to be reckoned with. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the elephant in the room with Maple Leaf fans and with the organization, and it sucks to acknowledge this or even address it because they've won 1 round, is you look at Pittsburgh between like 08, 09, and then once you got back there in 15, 16, there was kind of a, like, it was like, we got to wait to see these guys come up. Like, we got to get some help coming up. You look at what LA's done. LA won their cups. And then they basically said, Doughty and Kopitar here, and then we got to make some moves, and we got to bring in, and it might be a little bit tough for a year or two, but we think it can pay off because those guys can still play. I don't think the Leafs are there right now. I don't anticipate they will be by the end of the year. But we may look back in 5 years and say they should have taken those last 2 years of the Tavares deal and punted and basically loaded up on picks, prospects, and then when Willie and Austin and maybe Mitch are 28, 29, Easton Cowan's coming, Mitten's coming, couple of defensemen coming, and all of a sudden their team to be reckoned.
Yeah, but it's so much easier to do that when you've won.
Well, exactly. That's the problem.
57 years. Like it's
I know.
Crazy stretch.
I'm not even saying I'm advocating for that to happen. I'm not saying that they should do it. I'm not saying they will do it. I'm saying I think there's a reasonable chance 5 years from now, collectively we'll look back and say, man, they should have.
That's like the hindsight.
I know it is. I know it is. But that's why you're a manager. That's the job of Brad Treliving. Yeah. Like, he's got to evaluate this team and figure out who they are and what they're worth giving up and going for. And And it's a big trip. You're right. You may not know what it may not be a completely different assessment in 2 weeks, but
It's
it
just
can be
like-
a more positive feeling if you go 4-2, you beat
sure.
Edmonton, you beat Winnipeg. All of a sudden, it's like, all right, that looks more like a team that
It's
should
just
be
like
taken seriously.
it's very clear they need help on defense. Very clear, right?
Yes.
That doesn't change. I think they need more help up front. That doesn't. I think the only thing is the goaltending. Like if they get Joseph Wall back, and it's like, oh, it's not looking as good. Then you look around, it's like, well, maybe we got to get a goalie too. But it's like you can't get everything, right?
Well, exactly. You got to be reasonable with how many holes you're going to.
Like if you were
Ouch.
ranking like if you had to rank what they need, it would be defense 1. I think they need help in the middle, but that's like, if not the middle, just another forward who can play in their top 9, and then a goalie maybe, depending on what happens with Wall and Jones. I don't know, Samsonov.
Yeah, like that's a lot.
That's a lot of things.
Yeah, like that.
And it's like to your point, it's like, well, how much more
Yeah.
can you keep trading?
Now,
It's like,
in the cap era with 32 teams, every team has flaws.
yeah, and we
every-
focus on theirs because
Exactly.
we focus on that.
Every single team has flaws.
Did you see like Colorado's second line? It's like that's
Yeah,
not an
and
amazing
even
second line.
Georgiev, like his stats are not
Yeah,
bad,
he's
but they're not
nowhere-
great. And it's what has he won?
Yeah,
Like is Georgiev going to go on some magical run and win 16 games in the spring? I don't know. Look at Boston and they're the middle of their ice. The Rangers, they look pretty good. I'll give them that. But are they a perfect team? No. Like it's not possible to be perfect. This isn't the original 6. Like you can't have the 80s Oilers are never going to happen again. So we'll see. All right. Everyone all good? Everyone happy? Everyone ready? I'm looking forward to the game tonight. Like you got McDavid versus Matthews. And McDavid with the Art Ross, he's slowed down a little bit since our bet a couple weeks ago. You notice guys have like blown past him.
What's the lead on him?
Well, he's still chasing Kucherov. He's chasing MacKinnon. Because remember, we had a bet that by the end of the month, he'd be leading the league in points.
Yes.
And he is 15 points back at Kucherov.
Wow.
Kucherov 1, MacKinnon 2, and then a gap to Pasternak, JT Miller, Artemi Panarin, who's been great, Patterson, Willie, McDavid. Like Willie's got as many points as McDavid. He's played 4 more games. But
where would you put him in the Hart rankings?
McDavid?
Yeah,
Not in the top 5.
no.
No.
Who's in the top 5?
Well, MacKinnon is for sure.
Panarin.
I think Patterson. My number 1 would be MacKinnon 1. I think I'd go
Patterson.
2, Kucherov 3.
And then coming up the rear is Panarin.
Panarin's in there.
Can I ask you,
McDavid will be in there. I think Matthews isn't far if he scores 67 goals. And, I mean, you got to consider that.
Points.
And I'll tell you what, Sid is too. If they were in a playoff spot, Sid would be, he'd be closing in on top 5.
Answer me this: who's more valuable to Colorado, Makar or MacKinnon?
That's a good question because
Like, why is Makar never in the Hart conversation?
It's a great question.
That guy, when him
got-
and MacKinnon, I noticed it on Saturday night. It was like when they crank it up,
Yeah.
it's disgusting. Like it's like Keefe said, it's a different league what they do out there. It's just they're so fast and powerful.
Did you care about his comments after the game? Like, how did you feel about Keefe saying that they're in a different league? And
I think there was a method to the madness where it might have been a shot at his own guys where it's like, see those guys, that's a different level. That's a different league. So it might have been 2 things, acknowledging how great they are. And then it's like, wouldn't be bad if we had a couple guys where we, to answer that tonight.
I thought the same thing. I thought it was a subtle shot at, man, those guys, whew,
Oh, yeah.
they wouldn't accept losing tonight. That was really impressive.
Well, and who are
Whenever
the-
a coach does that, it's a shot at his own guy.
Yeah.
There's no question.
But he's also not wrong. Like, Makar,
No, I get it. But it's
Hayes,
not
MacKinnon.
normal. A lot of times somebody will say, what about those 2? And a coach will say, I don't comment on other teams' players.
Yeah.
But he went out of his way to say, man,
Yeah. It was
different league, different level.
it was over the top a little bit. But listen, they're you're right. Like answering that question, Jonas,
It's just like I have a vote, and I'm thinking like I get the MacKinnon thing. It's just like I think Makar is.
I think Makar won the Conn Smythe when they won, which probably tells you like that.
Plays half the game.
Yeah, the number 1 defenseman that can skate all over the ice and play in every situation is always
But they never
More
get Hart
valuable.
votes ever. Who was the
because
last
they have the
defenseman to win
Norris.
it? How long ago was that? Like 2000.
Pronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, 99, I think.
Was it 99?
2000 or something,
That's crazy.
where he won the Norris and the Hart Trophy.
I'm trying to think of who, like Carlson, but the team was so bad last year. Like, he wasn't going to win. You can't win the Hart unless your team makes the playoffs.
Yeah.
Historically, that's been the nature of the award.
And Lidstrom never won the Hart, obviously.
I think he could have. I think there was a couple years where he could have. Like, that guy was disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a disgusting in a whole different way that Makar was. Like, to watch that guy
smarts.
play, he controlled the whole game back there. He was outrageous to watch how good he was. And never hit anybody either. Just had the puck, kind of squeezed you off. He was unreal.
I don't
Yeah,
know why. I
he is.
remember a player telling me whenever you tried to put a puck past Lidstrom, he just batted down. Like, you couldn't get anything past.
Everything. He was just, that guy was so good. It's hard to explain how good that guy was.
But it's just like the quarterback thing in football. Like, can the quarterback be the only person who wins the MVP? And it's like, do you have to get 1 million points to win the MVP in hockey? I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess,
Like,
like
how did
earlier-
Niedermeyer never win an MVP? Like,
I don't know. That's I can't imagine there were more than a handful. Like, I'm sure Bobby Orr won the Hart. I know he did.
did he?
Yeah, I think he won it a couple times.
I guess smaller league too.
Well, I mean, the guy had like 127 points when the next defenseman in the league probably had 28. Like, it was pretty outlandish.
Imagine he had 100 more than the next guy and he lost the Norris.
I would not be shocked if his top year he had at least 60 points more than the next defenseman in the league.
Doogie, pull it up.
Look that up, Doogie. Bobby Orr's best year, I believe, was 127 points. He had like 44 goals that year. He was plus 128 or something on the season.
You're right.
I'm telling you, he was a plus.
He won 3 Harts.
He won 3. Do you have plus minus on there? Do you have hockey? Look up.
Did they keep plus minus then?
I thought they did.
They did actually. Yeah.
What was his best
Oh
year?
my God. He was plus 124 in 1970-71.
Imagine being plus 124.
And then the next guy is like plus 6.
Yeah.
I was minus 24 one year. He was
Plus
plus
124. That's a 148 point discrepancy of goals for and goals against. Like,
that
that's,
is disgusting.
that's crazy.
Okay, number 2 on their team was plus 98.
Was that Esposito?
Dallas Smith,
Dallas Smith.
another
All right.
defenseman who I'm guessing played.
bet you
with
it was his
it,
partner. I'll bet you it was his partner.
Yeah.
Well, Bobby Mack did a great bit on that during the juniors. And wasn't it, who was it that said, because Bobby was doing like the best defensive duos in Hockey Canada history or World Junior history. And he got to number 1. And I think he said Bobby Orr and whoever he played with. And the guy he played with, his kid like works here at TSN. He's like, that was my dad. He was his D partner in the World Juniors in like 63 or whatever it was. All right. What are we doing here, Doogie? Nail gun later in the hour? Okay, we'll get to confirm or deny. We're going to get to confirm or deny. We got Leafs Oilers tonight. The Raptors lost again last night. The Siakam stuff is really picking up. I don't know why people are sending this picture.
What is that?
That's noodles, like a bloated noodle. Someone just sent a ridiculous picture. Anyway, confirm or deny coming up. More on the Leaf game tonight. The Raptors lost last night. The NFL, we're into the divisional round. We'll look ahead to that as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Boston trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
Well, I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, confirm or deny. We know the way this works. Statements are made. We go around the table. We either confirm them or we deny them. Very simple stuff. Let's begin with an easy one pertaining to the game tonight. Leafs Oilers on TSN 4 and on TSN 1050. Confirm or deny, the Edmonton Oilers will finish the season with more points than the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Recency bias. I'm going to confirm it. They've just had 2 different win streaks of close to 10 games each. And their goalie looks like he's shoring things up. It's recency bias.
Yeah.
It's too tough a question to answer. I'm going to answer it, confirm, because they're playing each other tonight.
Mm-hmm.
One team's kind of bobbling a little bit right now, and the other team's on a heater.
Yeah, has them now. The Leafs have 50 points. Edmonton has 47. Edmonton has a couple games in hand. So they're basically like on par with each other for the second half of the season. Jonas?
I'm with Jeff. And I think part of the reason is,
Jonas, part of the segment is you got to speak for yourself. You got to have your own thoughts and ideas.
yeah, I guess I haven't demonstrated that much yet. I think if you look, we had a story at The Athletic about second half schedules. They have one of the harder schedules in the league, the Leafs do, in the second half. The roster might be different. They do play up. I don't know. It feels like it'll be like really close, but I will go with Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, Edmonton, they're going to hit a wall again, right? What they've done here is reset their season, and I give them the utmost credit for that.
See where they are, though, and like including those heater streaks, they're still just in that second wild card spot.
Absolutely. Like all they've done is caught back up. Actually, they're not even where we thought they'd be. We thought they would be chasing a President's Trophy.
That's just how difficult is it when Johnny comes up with his math, and it's like, if you start like this is how difficult it is. Yep. Like, they've been unbelievable and done the unthinkable just to get to there.
That's right.
They have one more slip, they could be toast.
You're right. They're still 18th in points in the league.
Right.
18th.
And they're, 17-3 in their last 20 or something? And they've won 10 in a row. But I'm going to confirm it as well. I'm going to confirm it because Edmonton they feel like they're on a mission here where I think they get to 105, 107 points. Feels like that's where it's going. And I think the Leafs end up around 100 points, make the playoffs, probably the 3 seed in their division. You know, these are always subject to change. Again, in 2 weeks, it may have a different feel. After tonight, depending how the Leafs play. It shouldn't change that drastically after one game, but you got to give credit where credit's due. Edmonton is defending well. They're scoring. They're getting goaltending. I think they add at the deadline. I think the Leafs probably will too, but yeah, I'll confirm it. Confirm and deny. Both the Eagles and Cowboys will make head coaching changes this offseason. Both of them.
I'm going to deny both.
Wow.
I think Philly could sit back and say, no, I'm confirming it. They're both gone. Screw it. They're both big markets, and they like to pull the trigger on this kind of stuff. And if you just fail miserably like that, they gas the coach. It's just kind of a known thing.
Yeah,
I'm going to confirm it. I thought Sirianni, they might look at him and say, how could you go from being the guy crying on the sidelines at a Super Bowl because you're such a great coach and everyone loves you, to a 10-1 start to we're firing you?
Yeah.
We're firing you?
1-6 since that game, and some really awful losses. Week 18, they got destroyed by the Giants. Destroyed by the Giants. They got destroyed by the Cowboys a couple weeks earlier, and yesterday, like, that was not close.
Dude, they got dummied by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
it was embarrassing. Their tackling was like, I don't even care if I tackled it.
That is the concern there.
I'm going to deny. I think the Cowboys slam dunk, obviously. Like, there's no way they're coming back again. I mean, they did it last year when you thought, like, there's no way.
You think old Mikey McCarthy sticks around?
I mean, he does have 12 wins in 4 straight, but no. I think Philly, they changed the coordinators. Like, clearly, Matt Patricia is not coming back. And that's going to be enough, and I don't know.
I'm going to deny, but I'm on the other side of it.
You think flip?
I think McCarthy, and it's because of Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is not going to hand the keys to a guy that he has to learn.
He's intimidated by?
He's intimidated by. Like, obviously, Luke has made the case for Belichick, and I understand that.
Is that why you think McCarthy's in place? Because he goes to him and says, this is what I want you to do?
Yeah.
He's basically texting him on the sideline.
I think McCarthy has autonomy on the sidelines and coaches the way he's going to coach. But I think Jerry Jones loves the idea of 12-5, win the division, punch your ticket, try to get in. I'm the man. I'm going to do my press conferences. And Mike McCarthy has no problem with that. And we were in this spot with Jason Garrett for years. Like, how are they bringing him back? And they were worse than this. They weren't 12-5 every single year like the Cowboys have been. I'm not convinced that Jones is going to fire him.
That's such an embarrassing loss, though.
It took everything for him to fire Garrett, man.
Yeah. That is so embarrassing, the way they play. Philly's worse, though. They went 1-6 down the stretch.
Yeah, but at least I can say they went to a Super Bowl last year.
I hear you, but things change quickly in pro sports.
Well,
quickly.
I mean, who would you get?
Well, I think Belichick to Philly would be fascinating. That's where I wonder if there's a race. Like, there's a report that Belichick interviewed down in Atlanta. I can't picture him in a dome with Atlanta. I just can't see it.
Yeah.
Like, it's
I just can't see him like. It doesn't seem like a big enough. No disrespect to the Falcons. It doesn't seem like a big enough market for him.
But it's a lot like Brady going to the Bucs. You know, it's the same division. It's not a good division. The Bucs are in the playoffs and they were 9-8 or whatever. He may go down there and think I can change things quickly and we can win. But another troll job too if you're a Falcons fan, because it was 28-3, and then the Pats and Belichick and Brady stormed back. If Belichick is using you to get a better job, but I wonder if the Eagles and the Cowboys are thinking, we better fire our guy quick to go get him or to get somebody else.
Well,
if they
Tomlin,
feel like they're both battling for the same.
How would you guys rank the coaches? Like, where does Tomlin? Where's Pete Carroll?
John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah,
I don't think Tomlin's getting fired.
I don't
not
think he
fired,
is
but
either.
maybe he wants to leave. Like, maybe he's just done.
Tomlin, I still think he's a really good coach.
Vrabel's out there.
Vrabel. That's the thing. There's some good
lot of
options,
coaches,
man. Yeah, there really is.
Maybe you're right. No, I'm not changing it.
All right. Confirm and deny. Corey Perry should be a high priority for the Maple Leafs to sign.
Deny. I just don't think he has enough left to help them. They need more guys who can help them offensively, who can help them defensively, who can play on your second line if you have to, who can play on your third line. He's a fourth liner at this point. He's not quick. He was never quick. He's not quick now. I would deny it, but
I'm not answering confirm or deny. I will say this: I would explore and investigate what needs to be investigated with that situation. And
I can neither confirm or deny that.
Thank you, JP. I appreciate that. And if it's something that you don't think that there's future problems that could pop up, it like you look into it and.
Well, okay, let me rephrase it. That goes without saying.
To see it as a high priority, I don't, but I would definitely investigate and see if it could work.
I mean, it goes without saying you need to do your due diligence, know
That's
what
what
happened.
I'm saying.
And I should have put that in there. I'm talking simply as the hockey player. If you're in a situation where it's like it's clear it happened, obviously something happened there. But if it's a scenario where he's going to be back in the league and you're looking into it and you decide, okay, this is a player and this is a man that is going to bring something to the table, is not going to have any other issues in the future or whatever, simply as the player, I would confirm that. Obviously, if there's going to be issues with his personal life or other stuff in the future, then it's a completely different story. But I think the player, Corey Perry, could still bring a lot to this team or to any team. So if you're in a position where you think you need help or you want to win,
then I would confirm the
That's
situation.
what I'm saying. If it's Corey Perry or Bobby McMahon on the fourth line, I'm taking Corey Perry.
that's fair. For a playoff series?
I will
Yeah, that's
confirm that. But to have it like an urgent type thing, like top type of priority, probably not. But am I looking into it? He could help? Yes, I am.
Yeah, and it sounds like Edmonton's looking into it. That's been reported from beat reporters in Edmonton. I don't know. He's going to sign somewhere. He's going to play somewhere. Like that's coming. Confirm and deny. The Raptors should tank down the stretch to make sure they get that top 6 pick.
Absolutely confirm. What's the sense of middling and nowhereville, where you're just missing or just getting in and getting dummied? It doesn't make any sense. You know what you are. Don't try to fool yourself. You've been fooling yourself for the last 2 or 3 years. Didn't you give up a first-round pick for Pirtle?
Well, that's the thing. It's top 6 protected. It's top 6 protected. And right now, they're the 6th worst team in the league, I believe, based on record. They're not going to reverse catch Detroit, Portland, San Antonio, Charlotte, Washington. Like, I think those are the clear-cut 5 worst teams in the league. Memphis now without Jaw's done for the year.
They just beat Golden State, so I don't know.
Yeah, but that's sick. That number 6 worth. Now you still got to make sure no one leaps over you. Like that is. I don't even want to get to that frame of mind. But the idea that they're like based on lottery odds supposed to have the 6th pick, and someone leaps over them and they move to 7, and the 7th pick goes to San Antonio for Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah, it's tough.
I don't know how Masai is possibly going to come out and speak on that if it gets to that point.
Isn't there only one thing you can do to tank, and that's trade Siakam? Like,
Yeah.
what else are you going to do?
Well, I mean, they're basically tanking anyway. They're not a good
It's not
team.
tanking. They're just not good.
They're just not a good team. But what you do
really
is
tank now.
Now you play the bench and you get down the stretch and it's like, Scotty, back to back, you're not playing tonight. Like you commit we are going to finish with 18 wins.
The only thing, and
Or
I don't
22
think
wins
this
or
matters, the
whatever.
draft is not supposed to be good at all.
Well,
I don't know if you care, but
I think
you'd
it's-
rather have the pick than not.
Yeah, because
but-
if it rolls over, I think it turns into a second in the future.
Yeah.
Like if it's top 6 protected, then, it rolls over and you can't give up the 7th or 8th or 9th pick when you're clearly in a position where you need kids and youth. Yes, I'm confirming that. Confirm or deny, Josh Allen has more on the line for legacy this weekend than any other player in the NFL.
Totally 100% confirm it. Lost to him twice in this exact game in Kansas City, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. This one's at home.
This one's at home, so go ahead and make your hay at home. It's 100%. Who else has more on the line?
I got one. Deny. Lamar Jackson.
You think Lamar?
Number 1 seed, going to win MVP.
Mm-hmm.
What's happened in the playoffs?
Yeah, I know, but I think you missed the boat, Jonas. It's not close to home. It's kind of like Buffalo's the close team. It's the big story. Like, as good as Lamar is, he won the MVP this year. It's like, how much Lamar talk's going on around here?
Yeah, it is.
Not
it's
around here, but in the NFL.
But
no?
even in the NFL, like he was a late. He grabbed that MVP very late.
Well, because no one
Exactly.
had it.
Yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from him. He was great. The Baltimore Ravens were great.
And it's like the media gave him the MVP where all the tweets went out at the same time. It's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like all the ESPN analysts were like, over. And then everyone was like, okay, it's over. I was like, is it really over?
It is wild how quickly that turned.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It was like
it's
a bunch
very-
of tweets in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
It's over. And I'm like, okay, I guess he's the MVP.
Yeah.
And
No.
everybody just
Just
ate it up,
accepted it.
man.
No, it's not
There's
Dak
a
anymore.
lot
It's
of
not-
groupthink with that stuff.
A lot. That's exactly what
It
happened.
happened in the NBA last year with Embiid. Everyone's just like, Embiid's the MVP, not Jokic. MVP. It's like, okay,
Right.
why?
Like exactly. Like you still couldn't put a vote in for Christian McCaffrey if you believed it in week 14 or 15 or 16.
Good one, yeah.
Like if you believed that, Dak didn't have a great stretch run, but still got to 12-5. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to confirm this because of who he's playing against. You make a good point about Lamar,
Yeah, he's
but they're playing
against his
Houston.
kryptonite, man.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like it's Allen versus Mahomes. And like Mahomes has got something on the line with legacy because he can just keep pushing it that much further.
Yeah,
he
with
goes
no
into-
receivers and
right.
blah, blah.
And his first game on the road in the playoffs.
yeah.
Right? Everything's been at home or at the Super Bowl. Right? Like he goes in there, doesn't play well. I think it would be idiocy, but someone will say, well, maybe he can't win on the road in the playoffs.
That's
like,
what pissed me off
Brady
about
could do
yesterday
that.
with the Eagles. It's like their wideout with Brown was down. It's like so many games did you watch Tom Brady in his heyday where it was like somebody was down, he just found somebody else and kept going to somebody else and he kept making it work. Philly was just like, no, it's not happening today. See you later. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know. It was. They still had other pieces, too. They still had a run game.
But it was like they just didn't care. It was, something happened. It's so bizarre to watch that.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Which coach do you think has the most to lose? Got to be McDermott, no?
I would say McDermott's high on that list.
Like, if they lose, is it possible they look around and be like, maybe we can get Mike Tomlin?
Don't you think the turnaround was enough to save his bacon?
I think Shanahan's got a lot on the line.
Yeah.
You're the number 1 seed now. And 6 weeks ago, it was Niners, Eagles, Cowboys. Like, that was it. There were the 3 teams, and you could debate who you thought was 4th. Those 2 teams are out.
Well, now
Like,
you
they
look at
got-
the rest of the teams, it's like they should.
They got Green Bay
Overwhelming
at home,
favorite.
who are youngest team in the league. They probably won their Super Bowl last week. You're coming off a bye and you're healthy.
Yeah.
And then next week you're at home against Detroit or Tampa. Like it is wide open for the Niners to cruise to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
Stupid stuff happens, though,
it
man.
really does. And that's why you play the games, man. Again, 6 weeks ago, if you had told me both the Eagles and Cowboys are out, I'd say there's no chance.
And lost to the Packers and
Bucks.
Bucks.
6 weeks ago, the Packers and Bucks were not even in the playoffs. Yeah. Anything's possible in the NFL. All right, there you go. Confirm or deny. Mike Johnson coming up in about 15 minutes. Dave Naylor still to come later this afternoon as well. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Mike Johnson coming up in 15 minutes. I discovered something today. I was at the gym. I was at Planet Fitness out by me today, and I haven't been to the gym in years. You've inspired me. I'm trying to get in there. I have
whatever you're going to say, I can one up you.
Okay. I have old guy gym gear because I haven't updated my gym clothes.
Dude, you got to look good in the gym. You cannot look like a bozo when there. Did you wear like surfer board shorts?
Kind of baggy
with
bad
like black
shorts.
socks and
I was looking around and it's the gym. It doesn't really matter, but it was more like I just have really outdated old guy gym clothes. And I got to figure that out.
You got to be hoodie guy with some cool
I've noticed that hoodie guy. The toque guy is always interesting in the gym too.
My guy lost it on me, my life coach, because he was going through the details of my day, and this is what he wants me to do. Because it's not just about the gym; it's when you leave the doors and go home. And he's like, "What do you do the rest of the day?" And I go, "Nothing." Like I have to. I don't know. I go home and I have a show to do. And he got mad at me because I was bitching and complaining about some of the exercises. And he's like, well, why don't you do the show on a treadmill? Walk on the. I just
Dude,
said,
you can't do that. Come on.
Maybe we got to try it one Friday though. Just
I'll give you an hour on there. Can you do an hour?
I'll do 3 hours walking on the treadmill.
You will not. You can't get through 3 hours.
Well, I'm not going to be speed walking, but I could walk at a comfortable pace for 3 hours straight. You think I can do it?
I don't have a lot of faith in that. I don't have faith
walking.
Yeah, like a comfortable walk, dude. Come on, 3 hours.
I guess I need to know the speed. Like I need the specifics on what type of speed we're talking. If it's barely moving and you're basically standing, then you can do that. But if you're actually walking for 3 hours without stopping and sitting down and
It would
talking,
be a pain in
I
the
don't
ass
think you're pulling that off.
You couldn't hear like the noise of the tread.
Exactly. That's another part. It's too loud. You'd be distracted.
Not this Friday. The next Friday, we're going to give it a shot.
Okay.
A full show on a tread.
I'm willing to give it a shot. I'd be intrigued by that. I'm trying to prop you up. I'd like to see it. I'm just saying I can't picture the logistics of that work.
Why don't you do it too, and then you can see who lasts longer? Huh?
He doesn't want to.
I don't really want to do that. Why? What does that accomplish?
I don't know.
Like, this is a professional show. We have sponsors.
You're having him walk on a treadmill.
I'm not having him. He suggested it. His life coach wants him to do it. He should know better than that. I met him. He's a good guy, but smarten up.
He is, but basically he's like, great job in the gym, but you go home and lie down on the couch.
But what are you supposed to work out?
I don't
every
know.
day,
He
second of the
basically
day?
said you got to keep active. It's like
Okay.
I'm turning into my uncle, where my uncle just goes for walks in Collingwood just to get his steps up. I'm not doing that.
Okay. Hour 2 coming up. Mike Johnson will join us. Dave Naylor as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.